When performing this event, candidates should place the hose nozzle over their shoulder and onto their chest. It is important for candidates to lean their weight forward and move at a rapid yet safe pace. Candidates are required to keep one hand on the hose nozzle at all times. If candidates do not keep one hand on the hose nozzle, they will be given a warning. If the behavior continues, the candidate will be required to start the event from the beginning. To start the event, the proctor will count down 3, 2, 1, go. When the proctor says go, the candidate will pick up the hose and begin the course. When deploying the hose around an obstacle, candidates will be required to overshoot or go past the obstacle and touch the designated area on the course before making the turn. This will reduce the friction of the hose and make it easier to deploy. At the completion of the event, candidates are required to place the hose nozzle in the designated area. If the hose nozzle is not placed within the designated area, candidates will be asked to go back and set the hose nozzle in the appropriate place. Candidates should be told not to throw the hose nozzle down at the end of the event, but to place it in the finishing circle. After successfully completing the dry hose drag, candidates should walk to the next event. When performing this event, candidates should place the hose nozzle over their shoulder and onto their chest. It is important for candidates to lean their weight forward and move at a rapid yet safe pace. Candidates are allowed to proceed through this event as quickly as possible, which may include running. They are not allowed to run between test events. Candidate must place one foot in the box before turning to the crawl tunnel. Candidates are required to keep one hand on the hose nozzle at all times. If candidates do not keep one hand on the nozzle, they will be given a warning. If the behavior continues, the candidate will be required to start the event from the beginning. Let's take a closer look at the crawl tunnel and what you can and cannot do. Any of the following methods is acceptable for advancing the hose through the crawl tunnel: facing forward at all times, or turning backwards in the crawl tunnel at any point. At the completion of this event, candidates are required to place the hose nozzle in the designated area. If the hose nozzle is not placed in the designated area, candidates will be asked to go back and set the hose in the appropriate place. Candidates may not use the frame of the crawl tunnel to brace themselves and aid in advancing the hose. After successfully completing the charged hose deployment, candidates should walk to the next event. The next event is the halyard raise. Candidates are required to brace one foot against the base of the ladder, also known as footing the ladder. If candidates do not properly foot the ladder, they will be asked to lower the ladder and begin the event again. Candidates may use one of two methods for raising the extension ladder. A candidate may use the thumbs up over the hand raise or a thumbs down over the hand raise. Candidates are allowed to use a two-handed method to begin the raise, but must continue the event with an over-the-hand technique. Candidates are not allowed to jump up and grasp the halyard. Both feet must remain on the ground at all times. Candidates are not allowed to crouch down and use their lower body to perform the raise. If the rope slips through the candidate's hands during the halyard raise, the candidate must restart the event from the beginning. If the rope slips through the candidate's hands a second time during the halyard raise, the candidate is disqualified from the test. After successfully completing the halyard raise, candidates should walk to the next event. The next event is the roof walk. Candidates ascend and descend a 12-foot roof ladder by walking or crawling up the rungs while carrying a simulated 22-pound chainsaw. Candidates are required to touch every rung on the way up the ladder with at least 1 foot including the rung designated with paint or tape at the 11-foot mark. If candidates skip rungs on the way up the ladder, they will be required to start the event over from the beginning. Candidates are not allowed to turn around and walk down the ladder. If candidates fail to back down the ladder, they will be required to start the event from the point at which they turned forward. Candidates are not required to touch every rung on the way down the ladder. Candidates should proceed down the ladder in a manner that is comfortable and safe. Candidates may either carry the chainsaw when backing down the ladder, or candidates are allowed to slide the chainsaw along the roof while backing down the ladder. The chainsaw must be returned to the designated area after the completion of the event. If the candidate does not return the chainsaw to the designated area, they will be asked to put it in the appropriate area before the next event. After successfully completing the roof walk, candidates should proceed to the next event. The next event is the attic crawl. Candidates are required to pick up the simulated flashlight and proceed across the attic prop, staying below the barriers. Candidates may either crawl on their hands and knees across the prop, or crab walk on their hands and feet. If a candidate knocks over a barrier, the proctor will reset the barrier and the candidate will start the event from the beginning. Candidates may not drop their hands or feet through the joist touching the ground below the attic prop. If candidates touch the ground, they will be required to start the event from the beginning. Once successfully crawling through the attic prop, candidates must place the simulated flashlight in the designated box to signify the completion of the event. If candidates do not return the flashlight in the designated area, they will be asked to return and put it in the appropriate place before going to the next event. After successfully completing the attic crawl, the candidate should walk to the next event. The next event will be roof ventilation. Candidates will pick up the sledgehammer from the designated area. Candidates can either place one foot on the footrest provided or stand closer to the striking area if necessary. For each strike, the candidate is required to raise the sledgehammer over their helmet and strike the roof while maintaining control of the sledgehammer. The number of strikes will be counted out loud by the proctor during this event. Improper strikes will not be counted. An improper strike is one that is not raised above the helmet, or one in which the control of the sledgehammer is not maintained at all times. If the sledgehammer is brought above the helmet and then simply allowed to fall back down to the prop, the candidate is not maintaining control of the sledgehammer. The candidate may also perform this event on one knee. After 30 successful hits, the completion of the event will conclude when the sledgehammer is placed in the designated area. If the candidates do not place the sledgehammer in the designated area, they will be asked to return it to the appropriate place before moving to the next event. After successfully completing the roof ventilation, candidates should walk to the next event. The next event is victim removal. There are several methods that may be used during this event. Dummy drag underarm. Candidates may grab the dummy underneath the arms, lifting the torso of the dummy off the ground and dragging the dummy around the course. Dummy drag over arms. Candidates may grab the dummy over the arms, lifting up the torso of the dummy off the ground and dragging the dummy around the course. Dummy drag one or two arms. Candidates may grab the dummy by one arm or two arms and drag around the course. Candidates may not drag the dummy by their head, feet, or the handle. Regardless of the methods used, candidates must move the dummy completely around the cones and place the dummy back in the starting position. If the candidate fails to carry or drag the dummy completely around the cone, or knocks over a cone, they will be asked to go back and properly maneuver the dummy around the cone. If candidate fails to place the dummy back in the starting position, they will be asked to go back and put the dummy in the proper place before proceeding to the next event. After successfully completing the victim removal, candidates should walk to the next event, which will be ladder removal carry. There are 3 methods that may be used when completing this event. The high shoulder carry. In the high shoulder carry, the entire ladder sits on top of the candidate's shoulder. Candidates may place the ladder directly on their shoulder from the mounted hook and proceed around the designated area, replacing the ladder on the hooks directly from their shoulders after. Next method is the low shoulder carry. In the low shoulder carry, the top beam of the ladder sits on the top of the candidate's shoulder. Candidates may place the ladder directly on their shoulder from the mounted hooks and proceed around the designated area, replacing the ladder on the hooks directly from their shoulders. The last method is the suitcase carry. In this method, the top beam of the ladder is held in one arm like a suitcase. If in the proctor's opinion the candidate loses control of the ladder while carrying it around the designated area, the proctor may intervene. The proctor will take the ladder from the candidate, placing it on the ground at the place where the candidate lost control. Then, the candidate may pick up the ladder in any fashion to continue carrying. If the ladder is to fall over the neck of the candidate, with the candidate's neck between the ladder rungs, the proctor will assist the removal of the ladder and grounding of the ladder. Once grounded, the candidate may pick up the ladder using one of the 3 methods and continue carrying through the course. With all methods, candidates should begin by finding the balance point of the ladder. Rungs in the middle of the ladder, which should provide the best balance point, will be marked. When replacing the ladder, both ends of the ladder must be in control and off the ground. If one end of the ladder hits the ground during replacement, the proctor will assist the candidate in grounding the ladder, and the candidate will then be required to replace it properly. The ladder must be replaced on the hooks in the original position. There will be rungs painted on the ladder to assist the candidate in this process. If the ladder is not replaced in the original position, the candidate will be required to remove the ladder and replace it in the proper position. Candidates are not allowed to lean or brace the ladder against the wall during replacement. While performing this event, candidates are allowed 2 penalties. A penalty includes any of the 2 following: when candidates drop the ladder, when candidates lose control of the ladder and the proctor assists grounding, when candidates voluntarily ground the ladder to gain stability, and when the ladder falls over the neck of the candidate and the proctor has to assist the grounding of the ladder. If 3 penalties occur, candidates will be disqualified. After successfully completing the ladder removal and carry, candidates should walk to the next event. The next event is crawling search. The candidate is required to crawl on their hands and knees or as a bear crawl around the designated area on the ground floor. After completing the crawl, the candidate must stand up and walk to the next event. The final event is the stair climb with hose. There are 2 ways in which the hose bundle may be carried. Candidates may put the hose bundle over their left or right shoulder and proceed up the stairs, or they may carry the hose bundle in their arms. While climbing the stairs, the candidate may hit every stair on the way up, or they may skip steps on the way up. Once reaching the top of the tower, they must step in the red box with 1 foot before turning to descend the stairs. On the way down, candidates are not allowed to skip steps. Every step must be touched. If a candidate fails to touch a step with their foot, they will be required to go back and touch that step before proceeding down the stairs. Once the candidate has ascended and descended the staircase, the candidate must place the hose bundle back in the square to conclude the time. The candidate cannot drop the hose bundle. They will be asked to pick it up and place it in the box.